Hello, this is Mr. Rasmussen with Algebra 2, Lesson 88. We have two parts to this lesson, and the first one is our distance formula. Now, before I get to our distance formula, I want to show you the two-step way to be able to solve this, and we'll jump right into example point 1, which gives us two sets of coordinates and asks us to find the distance between them. So if we were to put this on a graph and draw a line, it would be considered the hypotenuse of a triangle per se. Our first step here I'm going to do is to use our slope formula from the previous lesson to be able to find what the slope is. So m equals y1 minus y2 over top of x1 minus x2. So let's plug that in and find out what our slope is. So I'm going to have negative 2 minus 3 over top of 4 minus a negative 5. This one changed to a positive. Negative 2 minus 3 looks like negative 5 over top of 9. So there's my slope. In this particular case, since orientation really doesn't matter, the negative doesn't matter. But if I wanted to find out what my hypotenuse was of a triangle, and these are my two sides, for example, if this was side A and this was side B, I'd use Pythagorean theorem. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared, because if we were to graph these two coordinates, they'd be two spots and on the graph, and then this here would be my slope. Okay, so if I were to do that, I could put negative 5 in here plus 9 in there. That would be squared is equal to c squared. Okay, so negative 5 squared is 25. 9 squared is 81. And then I would want to square root, well, let's add those together. 81 plus 25 equals 106. And then I'd want to square root both sides, so the square root of 106 is equal to c, or my hypotenuse. And you can see that is my answer to the problem right there. Now I did that in two steps. I used my slope formula and then used Pythagorean theorem. Now in this lesson, the distance formula really is just taking those two equations and putting them together. So for example, let me write this out here. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. If we were to, instead of putting a in there, you can see a is equal to the slope. If we were to substitute y1 minus y2 squared in for a, plus, and then for b we were to put in x1 minus x2 squared, okay? And then if we were to square root the c so that it cancels out and put the square root over the whole thing there, you can see what we've done for ourselves is built and then they changed the d to a d for distance, and they write the x's first, but the order doesn't matter for commutative property of addition. You can see that's how they get the distance formula, is through just combining both of those equations that you already have used in the past. And if we were to do that, we would get to the same answer. Okay, and I'll use the distance formula. Well, I'll do it right now just to show you how it is the same thing. All right, so I've got my y1 and my y2. So my y1 is negative 2, my y2 is 3. So I'll put that in there like that. Plus, and then my x1, which is 4, my second x, negative 5, like that. So if I add these together, I get negative 5 squared here, plus if I add these together, I get square root of 9, and then that's all in square. And you can see I'm doing the same thing, just in one step instead of two. Okay, moving on to the second part of our problem. This is some physical science, where an equation to be able to solve the relationship between these. The P stands for pressure in atmospheres. The V stands for volume in liters. The N is the number of moles of gas. The R is the constant value, 0.0821. And then T is the temperature in kelvins. This is kind of similar to our universal gas law. And this is to solve a relationship there as far as these things and the number of moles inside of our physical science. So example 3, we want to ask ourselves, what are we trying to solve for? So it says use the formula to find the volume. So volume is what we're trying to solve for, so we want to get V by itself. So if I divide both sides by P, I now have my equation V equals N RT over top of P. And the volume is what I don't have, and that's what I want to solve for. Then at this point, we just plug in our values. The N there is our constant, which is 0.0. Oh, hold on. That's nope. The N is the number of moles of gas. Got that wrong there. All right. N is the moles of gas, which is 0.832. The R is our constant, which is 0.0821. And then also on the top we need my temperature. My temperature is 400 kelvins. And then I'm dividing that by my pressure, and it tells me my pressure is 3. So all of that is equal to V, and you can give me your answer in this form. Over in the book, they do multiply it out and get 9.11 liters as an answer. Okay, let's transition to the practice problems. Once again, I suggest you do them yourself and then check your answers with mine. So practice problem A. I'm going to use the distance equation. Once again, it's the slope equation and Pythagorean theorem put together. So distance equation is equal to the square root of my x1 minus my x2 squared plus my y1 minus my y squared, or my y2 squared. And so let's plug my values in here. I'll write them out first. 4 minus 2 and negative 3 and 1. Okay, this is my first value, 4 for x minus negative 3 plus, and then my y value is negative 2 and my second y value is 1. So there we go, and all that's going to get square rooted. So negative and negative make that a positive. So 4 plus 3 is 7 squared, plus my negative plus a negative gives me a negative 3 squared. So it looks like 49 plus negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. And once again, my square root is still sitting in there. So 49 plus 9 is 58. And square root, and I can't really reduce that anymore. So square root of 58 is my answer for practice problem A. Okay, moving on to practice problem B. I'm going to write out my equation first, which is PV equals nRT. And then I'm going to ask myself, what are they trying to find? It says to find the number of moles. So that is my lowercase n right here that I want to solve for. So I'm gonna move that over. No, actually it's got to stay on the top. So I'm gonna leave that right there and divide both sides by RT to be able to get my equation. So n is equal to PV divided by RT. Now let's plug some values in. N is equal to my pressure. It tells me that my pressure is 2. My volume, it tells me my volume is 4 liters. So I got that on top. And then for my R, which is my constant, I can write that in 0.0821. That's not going to change, hence constant. And then my temperature, I'm told, is 159 kelvins, And so simply writing those in, and then that gives me answer for moles, which is a chemistry term, which when you take chemistry, you'll find all about what moles are. All right, and then they leave my answer actually in that form and don't multiply it out, which is fine for you as well. And that's my answer for practice problem B. Okay, hope that goes well for you. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Have a great day.